welcome to the Monday, May 28, 2026, City of Farmington Planning Commission meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Crutcher.
Here.
Gray. Here. Kmetso.
Here.
Majoris. Here. Manti.
Here.
Perot is excused. Westendorf.
Here.
All right, moving on to the next item, approval of items on the consent agenda for the April 13, 2026 minutes. Any comments, feedback, changes?
Seeing that we have what looks to be some members of the public here, we do have a public hearing on the agenda, item 5A for the Vibe Credit Union. We do have an issue on the agenda, 5D, site plan review for Farmington Village Place. There may be folks in the audience that may be here for public comment for that particular initiative, and to have that discussion and public comment after might not seem prudent. I would make a motion that we revise the agenda for the May 28 Planning Commission meeting to move item 7, public comment, into the slot between 5C and 5D. That would allow us to open, hear, and close public comment in advance of the site plan review for Farmington Village Place, if indeed there are commentators for that. If it's for other stuff, we just have moved public comment up before that agenda item.
Okay, we moved on to number 3, right? You're talking about the regular agenda?
Sorry, excuse me, what is this? Oh, I'm sorry, geez, I got ahead of
That's
myself.
okay.
I'm excited.
That's okay, so he made a motion,
well-
anybody wants a second to move, as he proposed, the public comment, to move it between C and D for item number 5?
Support.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, thank you. So let's move back to number 2, approval of items on the consent agenda for the minutes of the April 13, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Motion to approve.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, number 4, unfinished business. Seeing as there's none, we'll move straight on to new business. First on the new business is a special land use public hearing for 31806 Grand River Avenue, Vibe Credit Union. And,
I will introduce the item.
yes, thank you, Chris.
Yep. Hunter Karam of Donna and Associates LLC has applied for a special land use for 31806 Grand River Avenue, Vibe Credit Union. Hunter is the architect for Vibe Credit Union, and Vibe Credit Union would like to open up a bank with a drive-through facility at this location. This property is zoned C2 Community Commercial District, and banks with a drive-through facility are a special land use in this district requiring Planning Commission approval. The special land use was noticed to the public in the Oakland Press as required. The applicant will present their project to the commission during this agenda item, and after the applicant presents their project, OHM will provide their special land use report. And then finally, the commission will open up a public hearing, and then once the public hearing comments are heard, close the public hearing. So with that, I'd like to invite the representatives from Vibe Credit Union up to the podium here to discuss their project. And as you come up, if you could state your name and business that you're with for the record.
Sure. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Tormina. I'm with Vibe Credit Union. I am the Vice President of Building Operations, and so I kind of handle all of the existing facilities and oversee the construction of the new facilities.
My name's Sal Lorenzano. I'm from Donna Associates. I'm the architectural project manager for the project.
So as Chris talked about, our project is remodeling an existing financial institution. It was being used, when we purchased the property, it was being used as office space, but the bones are still there. There was a 5-lane drive-through that we intend to put back to use as a drive-through. We will only use 2 lanes with the required bypass and an outside ATM. The project, do you want to just talk about the drive-through, or do you want to go through the whole project?
The whole project.
Okay. So the project in its entirety is a complete remodel, interior and exterior. On the exterior, we are also looking to change the facade of the building. We're removing some brick. We're going to paint the brick that remains, and we will use some of the architectural structures and fixtures in our other locations. Metal panels will surround the drive-through at the top of the building. We have a green metal panel accent strip in front, kind of give a little pop of color. And we're touching everything, landscaping, exterior lighting, upgrading all of that. $1 million investment on the interior and exterior remodel. On the inside, it's a small building, only 1,200 square feet, so we look to employ 3 to 4 full-time employees, 3 full-time bank personnel, and then 1 rotating services. That will be wealth management, real estate, commercial business, and they will be on, like I said, like a rotation, and they'll come through there with posted hours. 2 offices, a shared teller station, and again, complete with drive-through service, night deposit service. Not a whole lot going on the inside. Again, it is a small building. We're upgrading the bathroom to meet current ADA requirements. New finishes and fixtures throughout, and that's pretty much it.
Great. With that, I turn it over to Kristen to talk about her special land use review.
Sure. My name is Kristen Hatfield. I'm a planner with OHM Advisors. Included in your packet was a letter dated May 18th, 2026, and that's just for the special land use review. There's a separate letter that I reviewed the site plan. So for the special land use, as Chris stated, the applicant proposes to reoccupy an existing structure with an established drive-through, which is a special land use in the city of Farmington. Your Article 12 of your zoning ordinance regulates special land uses. So with this use, there are general standards that apply and then specific standards that apply to a drive-through. I've outlined all of those in the letter, so I'm not going to read it to you, but I will say that some of the most notable requirements would be demonstrating that the applicant has sufficient stacking spaces for the cars going through the drive-through, which in our opinion they did. On the site plan, you can see where they've shown the stacking spaces. And oh, I lost my place, I'm sorry. Demonstrating that they have sufficient stacking spaces was the number one thing that we noted in our review. We make some other suggestions in our site plan review, but in all, we felt that they met both the general standards and the specific standards for drive-through, and we recommended approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yep, and I'll just add that this first part is just the special land use, and then on a separate agenda item, we'll cover the site plan review. So I think with that, we would open up the public hearing, hear from the public, close the public hearing, and then move to the next agenda item, which would be dialoguing with any questions you might have on the project.
Okay.
Any motion to open public hearing?
Motion to open public comment for the special land use, item 5A on the agenda.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody from the public? Please step forward, say your name and address.
Good evening. Mike Smith. I'm a 38-year resident of Lakeway Street. I was there when it used to be a Comerica Bank, and I believe 5 Credit Union would be a great asset to the community. The only thing I ask is that, and then I haven't seen a site plan, is that the drive-through exit to Grand River instead of onto Lakeway Street, that they come in maybe on Lakeway Street or on the other side of the bank, come in, but exit to Grand River. That way the lights would be going out towards the street and people would exit that way. Lakeway Street right now probably has the most traffic on it that it's had in 38 years. So, you know, it'll add a little bit, but the credit union would be good. And the other thing would be, since the parking area was put into residential, if there could be a barrier put down the strip there. There's nothing right now between the residential and the commercial. That's all I just wanted to bring. I think the credit union would be a good use of the property, but, you know, I'm just asking that they can And I haven't seen a site plan. If you look at the site plan and, maybe take that into consideration, that the traffic exit onto Grand River. That's it.
Thank you.
Kevin Shallow, I also live on Lakeway, actually the first house right by Credit Union 1. And, I think a lot of concern that people have on the street is, where's the flow of traffic going to run? Are people going to pull into Lakeway, then pull into the Credit Union? Is there going to be an entrance established off of Grand River? Or could they enter and exit from Grand River? Because with the Credit Union 1, they enter from Grand River, but almost everybody exits onto Lakeway. So and then everyone that goes to and from the high school is speeding up and down Lakeway. So that's a concern. Like Mike said, it's a very busy street to begin with for a residential street. And I think it's just going to increase traffic flow unless there could be a separate entrance, established from Grand River, which I think there's space to do that. I think otherwise people are going to enter onto Lakeway to pull into the new bank. And I agree with Mike. Like, I'm the house right across the street from the bank, and eventually there's probably going to be a house on that lot right behind the new bank, and they're probably going to want like some kind of wall or barrier so that when they're building a house there, there's not going to be, there's going to be a little buffer between, the business and, the lot right behind that bank is for sale currently for someone that could potentially build a house there. So I think that should be considered in advance of who buys that lot and builds a house there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Seeing that there's nobody else, can we have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moving on to 5B, consideration to approve special land use for 31806 Grand River Avenue Vibe Credit Union. Chris?
Sure. So maybe I would give the developers the opportunity to address the questions if they so choose.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for taking the time to speak here. We currently do, the existing location does have three entrance, exit, curb cuts currently in place. There are two on Grand River and then one on the residential side street, Lakeway. The intent is to, yes, have the drive-through exit onto Grand River. That's the way it was set up in the past, and that's the way we intend to utilize it. All traffic flows out to Grand River. As far as entrance and exit off of Lakeway, it was always utilized that way. We don't necessarily intend to change it, but we do have the entrance off of Grand River as well. And so our signage, our building signage, everything will be positioned in a way that you see it from Grand River, and we would hope that they would, utilize that entrance and exit. With regards to the screen fence, I believe that was in the notes, one of the review notes, and so the intent would be, I believe we were given two options, a masonry wall or a landscape wall. We would absolutely probably move forward with the landscape screen wall, but there would be something there, some type of buffer.
Any other comments, questions?
So we'll review the actual site plan as part of the next item, but for the special land use.
So the site plan is where we would go into detail in the OHM letter and?
Yes.
Yes, okay, understood.
Fortunately, this special land use review requires quite a bit of reading into the motion.
Yep.
Because you have to address all 5 items and why you're approving or not approving.
Right.
Before that, though, sorry, I have a question for OHM. There were some items here that require the planning commission to determine certain stuff or to approve, like the metal roofs may be allowed if deemed by the planning commission to
Yep,
become.
that's the site plan review. So right now, for the special land use, you want to look at those general standards and the specific standards, and then we'll get to.
We'll get to
site
this.
plan in the next item.
All right.
I would like to make a motion. I would make a motion that we approve the special land use for Vibe Credit Union, 31806 Grand River Avenue. Motion to approve the special land use 31806 Grand River for the use of a bank with a drive-through facility because it meets the standards for approval for a special land use, section 35152, as follows. And these are 5 points. Point number 1, the proposed use will be compatible and in accordance with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Farmington Master Plan because this special land use request is compatible with the objective of increasing commercial opportunities and promoting economic growth in the City of Farmington. Additionally, the proposed business offers services that could be used by most residents, and the site is designed to accommodate a drive-through window. Number 2, the proposed use will promote the intent of the zoning district in which the use is proposed because the intent of the C2 Community Commercial District is to create mixed-use neighborhood centers with retail services that provide convenient shopping for people residing in nearby residential areas. The intent of this district is also to concentrate businesses that harmonize with the character of the surrounding uses and to prohibit uses that might create traffic hazards, offensive noises, and late hours of operation. In this case, the proposed business is replacing a bank that was previously located on the parcel. We believe the proposed business will be in harmony with the surrounding uses. We do not anticipate it will create traffic hazards, offensive noises, or late hours of operation because the subject parcel will provide an office use that is professional in nature while also serving as a transitional area between residential to the north and commercial to the south and providing a buffer for residential neighborhoods and arterial roadways. Number 3, the proposed use will be constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be compatible with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and so as to not change the essential character of the area in which it is proposed because the site was previously utilized for a financial institution with a drive-through and will again be used for the same purpose. Number 4, the proposed use will be served adequately by public facilities and services such as traffic operations along streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, water and sewage facilities, and primary and secondary schools, because all of these facilities are existing. And lastly, number 5, the proposed use of a financial institution with the drive-through window would not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, and equipment or conditions of operation that, in comparison to permitted uses in the district, be detrimental to the natural environment, public health, safety, or welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, odors, or other such nuisance.
Support.
Motion provided and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we'll move to the site plan review.
Okay, so this is an actual review of the site, and I'll turn it over to Kristen to cover her review letter.
Sure. I'm going to hit the highlights and then you can discuss and ask questions. I don't want to read the letter back to you, but I'm going to give a brief overview of our letter. The site is just over half an acre and is Zone C2 community commercial, and it was a bank in the past. Parcel has a vacant single-family parcel to the north, C2 community commercial parcels on the west and east side, and then across Grand River is multiple family. Because the applicant is reoccupying an existing structure, this was a pretty straightforward site plan review. The areas that we wanted input or feedback from the Planning Commission included the proposed standing seam metal roof. You have the discretion to decide if that is consistent with the architecture proposed. The lime green color that's proposed on the pillar of the street-facing facade. In our letter, we made the recommendation to consider making that eastern driveway from Grand River one-way rather than two-way, so the traffic is coming in, circulating around the site and going out, and we're not having conflict between vehicles turning left and right from that eastern driveway. And then in our note or our review, we've noted a number of landscaping improvements that are required by the ordinance. thank you for giving me the benefit of the doubt, but I did not mention the buffer. So you are correct, there is a buffer that would be required from this commercial property to the residential to the north. Planning Commission has the discretion to say if that's a wall, a landscaping, or a combination of. And those are the things that we highlighted in our letter. I'd be happy to answer questions or have you talk to the applicant more.
Any questions from the commissioners for either the petitioner or from OHM?
For the applicant question, it's drive-through, but you're also going to have an ATM machine there as well?
Yes, on the outside lane, second from outside lane, there will be a drive-up ATM.
Okay, so this is potentially a 24-hour operation.
Correct, yes, that ATM would be 24 hours.
A question regarding the facade of the building. If I'm reading the rendering right, it looks like there's what looks like maybe a neon band running around the top of the building. Is that, I
Yes.
didn't see any mention of it, it looks that way.
I believe that's the LED lighting, correct? Yep, so is that within the metal panel? Yeah.
That's a light fixture?
It is, yes, it's a neon light fixture. Or LED, I'm sorry, LED light fixture. So, goes around in the, I believe it's shown as recessed inside the metal panel. And it is our corporate green.
I'd have to double check whether that neon LED lighting like that is allowed in our ordinance.
Neon is prohibited, true neon lighting. In the lighting section, it does say that the Planning Commission may approve internally illuminated architectural bands when such bands will enhance the appearance of the building. So if it's not neon, then you can consider it, but neon is prohibited.
Yes, it would not be neon, it would be an LED fixture.
We had this discussion on Flagstar years ago, remember? Because Flagstar's branding identity was red, so down the street, I'd be interested to see what we either approved or didn't approve. I didn't drive by at night to see what Flagstar had. Does anyone remember that discussion?
I believe
It was similar. Flagstar has a red lit band around it, and yours appears, skinnier. Flagstar's was maybe like a 6-incher or so, from my recollection. Now, Flagstar's was, they're a little recessed back off of Grand River, but I guess a question on that lighting. Is it mandatory that the lighting be 360 around the building? Fronting Grand River, fronting business, probably not as bad, but when we think about the things that are the residents behind, it's not going to emit, a ton of light. Probably we'll have a discussion on the lighting plan just in general. But are you open to, on the residential side, not having the green stripe on the back?
Absolutely.
So you get your branding in the front where you're
Absolutely.
facing business.
Wouldn't have a problem with that at all. We're just looking for that pop, something to draw your eye, bring you into
Is the plan currently to have it all the way around the building?
I don't think it shows it that way on the elevations.
Okay.
It's not clear on the elevations what the
Yeah, right.
extent of it is, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, so I can't say what the intent is. We would probably just have it on the front of the building anyways. So in our existing facilities, we don't run it 360. We just run it at the front, any of the road facing.
Okay. Thank you.
Question for the applicant. Traffic flow, right? We've heard from residents, having a two-way entry exit. From your standpoint, I don't know, I would like to hear from OHM, et cetera. Are you opposed to having the Lakeway an entrance only and having, you're talking about a one-way exit, right? But are you opposed to Lakeway being an entrance only? Could you live with that solution, or is that mission critical to, your traffic flow?
I guess the only thing I would want to confirm, are we talking about was this east? Is that the eastern entrance off of Grand River that you would
No, I'm
recommend?
talking about I think what the residents are concerned about is people having a two-way. So the Lakeway existing one that's there now, which is an entry exit, would be an entrance only. So if someone does turn on Lakeway, they can enter your facility. But if they are leaving the facility, they would need to either back up and come back out on either one of the two Grand Rivers or loop around the building.
Yeah, and
If you're gonna go down Lakeway, you gotta really wanna go down Lakeway. You have to exit Grand River and then take a left
yes.
versus making Lakeway an entrance. So the question for the petitioner is, could you live with a world where Lakeway is a one-way entrance only? That's a preference issue. I would need to know from a safety, traffic flow, OHM standpoint if that's viable.
Yeah, we could live with that. We could live with that, absolutely.
Okay.
I think OHM was also proposing that the eastern curb cut off of Grand River become an entrance only, so you'd have
Right,
exit only, an entrance only, and an entrance only.
right. So you have one exit point, which would be the west edge, which would be as you're leaving the ATM or leaving the building, so everyone has to loop around and exit there. You can enter two ways. You can enter Lakeway only, or you can enter the eastern cut that exists on Grand River.
We would be okay with that.
Okay. Okay.
That seems like that would create more of a bottleneck.
At the exit point.
You would have two entrances and one exit. And the exit is where your drive-throughs are. So it seems like that would be more of a traffic problem, because now you could have traffic coming down Lakeway, north on Lakeway, and turning in. And you can have traffic coming off of Grand River and turning in the east driveway. But then everybody has to leave through the west drive off of Grand River. So if there's cars stacked for the drive-through, you have to go around those to the bypass and go all the way around the building.
Correct.
It seems like as they have it presented, exiting from Lakeway seems to make more sense from a flow. I don't know if the traffic pattern is to have folks travel and left out of that driveway, or if we can have it right turn only, so you exit from that exit and exit
Yeah.
towards Grand River.
I think the residents are concerned of people making this a cut through down. But look, if someone's gonna do it, like, water finds the laziest path. They might not take a left at Lakeway. They may just leave Grand River and go 100 feet and take a left and still go down Lakeway. I'm not sure you're gonna change customer behavior, right?
saying-
It's gonna happen.
Yep, so, but having folks come into the Grand River entrance and then leave through the Lakeway
Yeah.
Street and then
Yeah.
right turn and right turn back to Grand River.
Yeah.
Seems like a better flow than the other way. I don't know if it means where there's a no left turn sign coming out of that entrance.
Understood, yeah, right. I mean, I guess a question for staff or OHM, is this, if we move forward with an approval, can we say, a to-be-determined solution that is best for public safety, traffic flow, traffic pattern, et cetera, that with the primary objective being northbound Lakeway is not an option for people leaving the bank? And the best solution to do that?
You could do that. You could make a motion that's conditional
Yes,
on
conditional upon-
administrative approval
Right,
of
right.
the circulation plan.
Yes,
And that would be Chris, OHM. we
right,
work with
right,
Jeff.
right. With the limiting factor being northbound Lakeway, the best solution for one or two-way at all three of them for traffic flow, et cetera. Okay. Can you describe the metal roof? I couldn't quite tell. Is there like it's flat now, but is there something else going up there? Is there a?
Well, there is an existing bump out on the roof.
Oh,
Yes, the
okay.
Majority of the roof is a flat roof, rubber roof, and then there is a small bump out that is currently shingled. Again, just our existing facilities, we utilize the metal roof. We just think it's more aesthetically pleasing than the shingles. And so we are just looking to bring that element in, similar element into this location as well, so.
Okay.
Okay, a question for the petitioner. Can you talk a little bit about the waste receptacle, mechanical equipment, and utility screening? And what's that gonna look like? Because now,
So there is a current dumpster enclosure on site. Our plan is we probably will not use that. We don't generate that much waste. Our current facilities utilize a 96-gallon tote that we store in our employee lobby, and then we bring that out on garbage day. The utility screening, there is an existing transformer on the site. We would screen that with landscaping. And yes. Yeah, so there's an existing transformer behind the building that we would just screen with landscaping. And then, I'm sorry, what was your third?
Is this the other, is there a mechanical equipment on the west side of the building? Is that the transformer?
That's the transformer, yes. Yep, DTE transformer, correct.
So to clarify, you're not intending to reuse this dumpster enclosure in the northwest corner?
Correct.
Should that be something that is asked to be removed, so it's not just there as a,
Dumpster?
you know, just a abandoned building on the site? It doesn't look like it's a functional enclosure as it is, as there's no way a truck's getting into that enclosure, but.
Yeah, and I don't know, I know that the previous owner had to build it according to the township ordinance, so he built it brand new. I agree, I don't know how functional it is because of the angle. I don't know if a truck can get in there. It is rather large. I don't know if you could put a small container in there and they could wheel it out and pick it up.
I guess my question is would you be open to just demoing it rather than having a,
Yeah, if
base falling apart on the back?
we can absolutely, I guess at that point, we would probably just use it. We would put a small can in there. So if there's no, opposition to just using it, then we would just put a small 2-yard can on wheels.
So what's the plan for trash otherwise?
It would just be a 96-gallon cart that we roll out
You'll keep it
on trash day.
in the building?
We keep it in the we keep it in the employee lobby.
In consideration with the landscaping requirements, there were also 2 items that were reported does not meet standards. The frontage in the parking lot. With the frontage, it mentioned a revision to the landscaping plan to provide the required greenbelt planting in a room for a canopy, a tree for the parking. Can you speak to what your plans were there to meet those requirements or those standards?
You want to take that one?
Which tree? Sorry, maybe.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I apologize. Which tree were we talking about in the front there?
So if you don't mind, sorry, the ordinance calls for a required 10-foot wide green belt. So in our letter, I'm assuming you guys just didn't see that part of the landscaping ordinance. So we would communicate with you that you need to design a 10-foot wide green belt. There's required street frontage trees, and it looks like there's 3 existing. There might be room for 1 more. If you look at the letter, the comments pretty much outline what the requirements are, and the city's ordinance has a list of, plants they recommend or that are prohibited. So we look for a street tree, a green belt planting, and then there was also some required screening in the parking lot in the front, just a hedgerow along the parking lot area. It's nothing crazy. It's just pretty standard landscape requirement.
Okay, so I'll go ahead. I'll take a look at the letter again, and we'll adapt and make it compliable.
Whatever those requirements are, we fully intend to meet all of those requirements.
So, one more question. Can you confirm that the parking spaces are at least 18 feet long?
Yeah, they will be 18 feet long, at least.
Will be,
Yes. Yeah.
Any more questions, commissioners, from the petitioner for OHM? No? Do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve the site plan 31806 Grand River Avenue Vibe Credit Union, conditioned upon completion and approval of the items contained in OHM's site plan review letter dated May 21, 2026, and OHM's engineering review letter dated May 18, 2026. Two items that I would like to make sure are specifically called out in the motion. Number one is work and approval by the appropriate city departments on the entry egress discussion had today, with the primary objective being to prevent exiting to northbound Lakeway traffic. Again, condition on appropriate city department approval. And secondarily, removal of the dumpster enclosure, which may have also been noted in OHM's letter, but just wanted to call that out.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, now with the revised agenda, we would like to open the meeting for public comment regarding 33224 Grand River Avenue, Farmington Village Place.
We need a motion for this? Staff, do we need a motion to open the public comment? It's just general public. Oh, it's general public
Just,
comment.
yeah,
Okay,
anything.
okay, understood.
Yep.
So if anybody in the public would like to approach the podium, we take your name and address.
All right, seeing as there is none, we can move on then to the next, the site plan review for 33224 Grand River Avenue, Farmington Village Place.
Let me help out with this for a second. Cue something up for the television. And
Sure.
you guys have a laptop?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can do that.
This one? The TV shut off. Let me first make sure I can get the, it's not displaying. Television's not sending a signal. One step closer. And you want to start off with the plans and then show the renderings?
Yeah,
or-
so the 25
We're there. I'm going to introduce the item, but if you could talk into the mic, and if you're going to move away to point at the TV at Freddie Reese. Okay, great.
Please introduce the item.
Okay, this item is the review of a site plan for 33224 Grand River Avenue, Farmington Village Place. The development, it would be located in the Thomas and Warner focus area of the Farmington Forward Master Plan 2025 and aligns with the vision for a mixed-use redevelopment with ground floor retail and upper story residential units. And included in your packet is the focus area from the master plan. This mixed-use development is located in the Central Business District and is therefore required to be reviewed by the Downtown Development Authority Design Committee. The DDA Design Committee reviewed this development, and draft committee minutes are included in your packet for your review. The items recommended by the committee were addressed by the applicant in the plans that were submitted for OHM's review, and their review letters are in your packet. But I would note that because of the quick turnaround between the design committee and this meeting, this information was not resubmitted to the DDA Design Committee. So any motion that we would make later on, I think there would be a good suggestion for an administrative follow-up just with the Design Committee and ask them to clear their notes. It appears that they've addressed the notes from the DDA Design Committee, but they haven't had a chance to look at it in a meeting yet. The applicant is here at the meeting and will step up and introduce their project, and then we'll hear from OHM with their review letters. So with that, I would invite the applicant to come up.
Buenos Aires. Ben Tissio, Tissio Architects. I'm the architect of record. I'm also the developer. And I have two of my partners here tonight as well. So we're anxious to get this project moving along. Kimberly Lipinski, she'll be addressing a lot of the design issues that were suggested at the meeting. But we've come a long way from looking at this project with the initial vision I had to what it is today, which more aligns with what the DDA study had done and proposed for this project. We did take a lot of things that were discussed both in private and at the design committee meeting, and we did make those changes. And I believe we did improve the pedestrian flow at the front of the building with the added seating and the benches and the landscaping at the front of the building. The building itself is going to be, it's a mixed use, obviously, and it will be the first floor retail. The drawings indicate 6 tenant spaces. We're not going to build in those spaces until we have tenants. It could be 1 tenant, it could be 4, it could be 3, we don't know. It could be 2. Then we have 3 stories above that of condos, 11 condos per floor. We will be having the 6 facing Grand River will be almost identical. It might be on opposite hand. And the ones on the rear facing Thompson Street will be a little bit different in each of them as well. So, and then again, we do have a high parapet that would hide any rooftop equipment if there should be any. So I guess with that, I will turn it over to Kimberly. She's been designing this building for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, so with the design, one of the things that we wanted to consider was the scale, it being, in a downtown area, and you're gonna have vehicles driving by and pedestrians walking by. We didn't want anything too large, so looked at kind of breaking up the big mass with different materials and openings to try to keep it to a good scale. We also wanted to use materials that are low to no maintenance, so that, this building looks as good in 10 and 15 years as it does when it's built. So, you won't see anything like EFIS or anything that requires regular maintenance or painting. These are all, high-quality materials that will look good throughout. And it was important to kind of distinguish the retail space from the living space. So if you look at the rendering, there's kind of a sign band that helps to establish that. We also have the entrance for the storefronts recessed to allow a larger walk for people entering and exiting the retail spaces. And then we have balconies that are recessed for all of the condo units so that they can utilize them, given the Michigan weather, hopefully longer. They don't protrude out from the building. They're actually completely enclosed and covered. And there's as much glass as we could provide them for natural light. We did have restrictions on the east and the west properties because of it being right up against the property line and having to be firewalls and fire rated. So we weren't allowed any openings on those, but we maximized and utilized what we could on the north and south elevations.
If I may introduce something here, it was based on a discussion we had with the design committee. There appeared to have been some objection to the word village. So I took it upon myself to rebrand the project. It's now going to be known as the Farmington. So with that said, thank you.
I'll also just add that we really appreciate being able to meet with the Design Development Committee ahead of time. We think that the suggestions that they made really helped make this an even better project than we had initially come in with, and we're really happy with where we ended up with it.
So with that, maybe I would turn it over to OHM to talk about their review letters for the project.
Well, you guys have not heard me talk too terribly much in the time I've known you. That's gonna end tonight. We're gonna do some talking. So before I go over a review letter, just did want to echo what Ben and Kim said, that a lot of work was done on the site plan leading up to this with both the consultants, the city staff, and the DDA design committee, and we appreciate you being receptive to feedback. As the planners, we informally reviewed the original submissions, we made comments, and so what we're seeing tonight is a result of that. In our site plan review letter dated May 21st, pardon me, I just lost my spot, we reviewed the plans for the Farmington, a mixed-use development located at 33224 Grand River Avenue in downtown Farmington. The applicant proposes demolishing the existing Village Shoe-In and constructing a 4-story mixed-use building with commercial units on the ground floor and residential dwellings on the upper stories. That is a use permitted by right in your CBD. The parcel is just over half an acre and around 30,000 square feet, and is located on the north side of Grand River Avenue between Farmington Road and Warner Street, with frontage on both Grand River Avenue and Thomas Street. The applicant proposes building abutting Grand River Avenue from the east to the west lot lines, with parking located behind the building, and they are proposing carports, and there's a diagram of what they were proposing in the site plan. The building will be 4 stories with a basement and almost a total of 60,000 square feet. There will be 11 condo units, as they said, on each floor for a total of 33 units. And this is a big project. I'm sure the Planning Commission's ready to discuss and ask questions. So again, I'll just hit the highlights of our review. The applicant will need a waiver from the Planning Commission to place the building more than 3 feet from the front yard setback. And that decision was based on feedback from the DDA Design Committee to really highlight where the entryways to the commercial properties are, and give the building a little more depth and make it less flat. The Planning Commission needs to make a determination on the design as presented. We noted in our letter that we didn't receive facade calculations as part of our site plan. So there are standards in the ordinance, but the Planning Commission also has the ability to allow modifications to the facade ordinance, and we can talk about that as you discuss the project. The building as proposed would require a 1-foot variance from the ZBA because the parapet wall will exceed the height in the district. So the height limit for a building is 45 feet, and then there are exemptions which would allow for up to 6 feet for a parapet wall, and they're 1 foot over that. So keep that in mind as you discuss the project. And finally, parking, which I know will be an issue tonight. In your letter, we did calculations based on 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, and that's a standard that doesn't apply in the CBD. If there is on-street or public parking available nearby, we use a different number to calculate. So instead of 2, it is 1.5 spaces per unit. And on that sheet, that would bring it down to 50 spaces for the dwelling units. I know you have talked about amending your parking ordinance, and if you did that and made the changes you were discussing, you were talking about reducing numerical parking requirements to 1 spot per dwelling unit. So that would get them down to 33 spaces for just the dwelling units. So with that, I'm going to see if you have any questions or you want to ask the applicant questions.
You have a question?
Oh, I've got loads of questions. All right, well, first off, I'd like to welcome you guys to Farmington, and we're excited that you're here, and appreciate your interest in our award-winning community.
Certainly.
And this project, I think, as Chris mentioned, aligns with our recently adopted master plan and the mixed-use 4-story building on this site. I think that's exactly what the master plan's calling for. I don't know that we were expecting it to happen so quickly, but
Quickly, I heard it was some years you guys have been
Well-
looking for a project. So.
I think we adopted that master plan last month, so. But that being said, we do have, some questions and want to get into some things, so. I guess my first and biggest question or concern is that this project is approximately 150 feet wide, and every other site along the road is 20 to 30 feet wide. And the facade of this building is, particularly the large cornice there has, it's a 150-foot long building. It's gonna kind of stick out a little bit, aside from the height, which is allowed. I was wondering if you have considered breaking up the building horizontally more so that it doesn't look like one out-of-place building on the site.
When you say break it up, you mean from a design standpoint with features on the face of the building, or break it up into regular different buildings? I don't.
However you choose to do it, I'm not particular. I would think that you'd probably break it up along the facade more than different
I'll
buildings.
let
That sounds
Kimberly address
expensive.
that. She's been working on the design.
Just to mess with materials or push and pull of the facade to just, yeah.
One of the issues that we have is with the retail, we're not entirely sure how that is going to be divided up. So with a space like this, without knowing how those spaces are going to be demised, we wanted to keep it flexible so that we had space for signage. If in fact we, have 6 tenants that go in here, it could just be 2 tenants. So we kind of wanted to leave it open for that reason. And also with the condo units, give them, as much space as possible and have a somewhat symmetrical look between both of the sides. We, I guess, didn't really look at stepping the materials back and forth as much. Part of the consideration is that we wanted to mimic the materials on the sides of the building that we have on the north and south elevations. On the north and south elevations, we have more flexibility. On the east and west sides, we don't. I had 4 inches to work with material application for that reason because of the fire codes and things. So that's how we arrived at the design that we did.
Looking at the site plan, have you done any truck turns on this? Or do we know that
Yes,
emergency
actually, we just
vehicles can
submitted-
get through here? And
Our engineer submitted that this morning or yesterday.
Yeah, it got.
okay, it just
There's
just
a
want to
new-
check. It seems pretty tight in there with a truck being able to circulate around that canopy.
Yeah, there's a new plan, SP 2.1 in the civil package that addresses the truck turning radius, both for the dumpster enclosure as well as the fire truck radius throughout the site. That was something that came in the site plan review letter.
Right. Then I see that you are, it looks like you're eliminating about 7 public parking spaces from the northern shared lot back there. Some of them for your circulation drive aisles, and then some of them for access to your dumpster enclosure. Is it possible for you to relocate that dumpster enclosure to somewhere else on your site so that we can keep those coveted north parking lot spaces?
Well, in looking through the design and the flow of the traffic, for me, it was critical that we maintain the drive through our property onto the adjoining properties. That caused those spaces to be eliminated. And frankly, we found no other place on the site where we could put a dumpster and have it accessible for pickup, just because of the constraints of the site. I mean, I even looked at having it internally within the building and have it rolled out the times to be picked up. But my concern became, how do you physically pick it up? You're going to get some cowboy driver, and all of a sudden you're going to have a dumpster that's going to hit the building. Where we have it located, in my opinion, appeared to be about the only place we could place the dumpster. And I understand we lost some spots, but I think that's just a byproduct of developing the whole site.
It seems to me that it would be pretty easy to move that dumpster enclosure to the other side of that bank of parking that it's on right now. And then it would be accessible from your new 22-foot wide drive aisle. If you needed to expand that drive aisle a hair to accommodate that or angle it, that shouldn't be a problem.
I mean, we could look at that, but I don't know that the truck turning radius would work at that location.
Okay.
We also, there's a retaining wall along the east as well. It does eventually meet grade where we have that 22-foot drive, but along the entire east property from the building out to Thomas Street, we do have a retaining wall because of the differences that we have in elevation from one side of the site to the other. So that's something
Right.
to consider as well.
Along with losing some of those parking spaces in that north lot, it looks like there were some light poles that were removed, and I don't know if they're just not shown because they're on the adjacent lot. But there are a couple of light poles there that are lighting up the north lot that are not shown on this site plan.
We didn't show anything that was off of our property.
Sure.
they're
That might
there,
be something you want
they're there.
to include because I think they're going to interfere with your drive aisles.
I don't know that that would be the case simply because right now the building abuts that whole west property line. Where would the light poles be?
They're right there in that parking lot.
I see a wall-mounted one. Okay, I see something in the right-of-way. Well, that's a utility pole.
There's one
I'll take
hanging off
another
the
look at
utility
it, but I
pole
don't see
in the
anything
back
on the
as well.
survey that indicates a light pole there.
Okay. And it looks like the lights that you have on that west side of your site, it looks like the poles are in the adjacent lot.
No, they're on our property.
No,
Oh,
they're just
excuse
off
me,
of it.
they're just
because of
off.
the carport.
And then they're shining down on the top of a carport.
Well, they would be actually angled for the aisles there.
Okay.
Are you sure? It looks like the light pole's down on their property.
Right, it's just off, correct.
Yeah, you're not touching.
There's an actual walkway there now.
Across the front of the building, so there's a sidewalk that's, 4 feet wide or so, in front of the building, with a ramp on one side and a set of stairs on the other side.
Yes.
Seems that it would be helpful to have a few more ways to get into that sidewalk space so that if somebody wants to go into, say, one of those middle units, they don't have to go 150 feet out of the way to get in, that how you can make your space more accessible to the public.
One of the issues that we had to deal with is the change in grade. From the east to the west of the property line, there's approximately 2'10" grade difference. That's why if you look at the elevation, you have the slope on it. We have to have a ramp and a 1 to 12 ramp is going to be 15 feet long on the west end. If we were to put a ramp in between there, it's going to be 20 feet on both directions. Now, all of a sudden, we don't have any room for storefront doors. So that's not an option to put another ramp within that 150 feet. It just doesn't work.
I don't think I mean, just given the length of the building, it's 150 feet, but, you know, you're going to be 75 from either end at most.
Sure, unless I need to take the ramp. Then I have to go from one corner to the other corner, but I'm walking around town anyway.
Fast down the stairs. No, I mean, but the contour and the grading of the site, the topography, there's not a lot of options for.
Since they don't know how they're going to break up the first floor, because if they broke the first floor up, they could step that first floor, so that.
No, I think that's part of the problem is the grading of the site. You can't step the floors.
We have to
But-
keep it
Excuse-
open for
Right, other-
future. I mean,
Right.
even
But,
though we have.
Right, if you had one tenant, then it
Right.
would be, yeah, understood.
Part of what really drove this was the back of the property, balancing the engineering so that we could have more of a level asphalt area in the back. That was what drove the elevation of the
That's why you have
finished
to maintain
floors.
that.
And that we had to live with. Otherwise, we would have very steep ramps going from our aisle to the other public aisles, or even problems going out to the street in the back. So this was the only option that we had, is what we had laid out. And again, that was determined by the existing topographical survey.
I always thought it was an easy parcel to develop till you realize it's not a flat.
So did I, and I was shocked when we got the survey back.
I'm not sure how many times I've walked that all the time, and I've never noticed how much of a drop it is across the site.
It's not flat.
Yes, it's like, what? See, I had black hair before I started this, by the way.
Get it, yeah. So on both the east and west, you're going 0 lot line,
Correct.
right? I'm trying to determine from the site plan here, on the east side, which would be Cottage Inn,
Yes.
is there a space there? Are they 0 lot
Roughly-
line also?
No, there's roughly a 3-foot space
Okay,
from their building to the property line.
okay, that's why I was wondering if it was
Yes.
wide enough that that space could be serviceable if they needed to get
If they
through there,
needed
so
to,
it's not like a
again, we can't
rodent
dictate
trash,
our neighbors'
whatever. Yeah,
development on their property. But technically, we pulled the building back 4 inches on that property line to give it some relief, as Kim mentioned earlier.
Is the same true on the other side with Apricot Lane?
No, the Apricot Lane, we are right at the property line, which means that we will be abutting their existing wall at that first floor. And again, there was no other way to design that, simply because of once we have a gap between two buildings, flashing is difficult, snow, water becomes a major problem. So the best solution is to be at the 0 lot line, abutting that building, so we can have proper flashing, et cetera.
I see on your elevations that you call out for, was it 4-inch brick or 4-inch? Yeah, 4-inch brick.
Yes.
Is that a clay brick, a concrete brick? I'm not sure if it makes a difference in our ordinance, but,
I have all the materials right here, so it's just this is the dark brick, which is above and below where the composite decking is shown.
Those are full with 3 5/8 brick.
Yeah, it's gonna be a full 4-inch
Okay.
brick. And then this
Got
is
it.
the material for the light brick. And all the other pamphlets and brochures are.
And the stone will be full also as well.
okay.
Yeah, the stone is the actual thickness.
So I'm clear, 34 of our packet versus what starts on 43. Are those the same or are those different, design-wise? Because these have bricks, brick look to them. If you look at page 43 of our packet,
Well, I don't have
40
your packet.
43 is P10.
P10?
and then if I look at the rendering, or maybe the rendering just doesn't have the brick, it looks smooth, if that makes sense, which is 34 of our packet.
It's a color.
It's just a.
The elevation is,
34 is the cover sheet.
being black and white, it looks darker because all the bricks are drawn on the elevation.
Okay.
So it looks darker.
And the renderings are the same.
It's a standard modular brick.
Okay.
The 4 by 4 by 8. Excuse me, 4 by 2 1/3 by 8. There's 3 courses and 8 inches.
Okay.
Have you considered using any kind of occupied roof or anything? Letting the residents up onto the roof?
We did, but that became a major issue as far as insurance, as far as loads. Safety issues got a concern. Exiting, it's too much. It works in a downtown setting like Detroit. We did one rooftop there. That works in that downtown area if it's a 2-story building. But getting up on a 4-story would be very challenging, and frankly, it would put us way out of budget. We're over budget as it is now.
Can I throw one out there? If you
Go
have
ahead.
More, but
Yeah.
look at, this is a big marquee product, or property for us.
Yes.
And to be honest, this is a lot to take in the first time we're seeing this. I know there's been a lot of work up to this point. But I guess a question I had, or if I was talking to residents, I think the first thing that they would say is, wow, like, where'd this 4-story building come from? And, I guess that you have to work your economics out of what's
Yes.
gonna work for you, right? Budget and what you can sell units for and rent on the retail outlets. But is this the minimum viable product that you could put on this site? So you were talking about rooftop. I was thinking about facade, the look of, because you're gonna come up Grand River and everything's 1 story, and this is the first thing you see. And you see a 4-story,
Correct.
huge, which will dwarf everything that goes on the other side of it.
Yes, it
I
is.
think a lot of residents would have something to say about that. So the question I had was, is 4 stories the minimum viable product for you?
The
Could
answer,
it be 3 stories?
the short answer is yes.
Could it be 4 stories where the top story eliminates half the units?
No.
So it's 3
We're-
stories and it
again,
goes
we-
back, and then there's just units to soften. So if 33 or whatever the number of units is, this size, 4 stories, it's this from a configuration standpoint, or it's a no-go?
Probably, yes, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we know what we're dealing with, right?
On top of that, if you recall the study that was submitted to the DDA, this is exactly what they were recommending for this property. 4-story mixed use. That's what they recommended.
Was this a study done by MEDC? Or is that something else? I remember a couple of years ago, there was a study done by MEDC on the viability of a 4-story building compared to a 3-story or 2-story.
You remember, that was TIF? Who's the,
Integra, and it was done in October of 2023. They recommended this product, and even this product, they said, would be very difficult to, from a financial feasibility standpoint, to even make a 4-story building work in the site.
Is that the recommendations that are in the back of our packet?
What's in the back of the packet is from the master plan, which is what was envisioned for the site. This is a separate study that was done for this particular site to market the property. And when it was done in 2023, they recommended development similar to this But when they looked at the financial viability of it, it was underwater by 600,000 or 700,000. So they recommended not developing the property at that time, repurposing it until the conditions in the market became a little bit better.
So may I ask a question of Mr. Weber? So there's that study that was referenced. There was the Farmington Forward Plan. Can you please go through just what was put in the Farmington Forward 2025 plan? As we read it, development details, 15,000 square foot retail, 28 units, flats on the second, third, and fourth floor. So I'm trying to come at this from a standpoint of the Maxfield development, albeit a different process, had a lot of time and resident emotion attached to it. And what I'm looking to make sure is that we as a planning commission understand what we have publicly said to residents, whether it be through a Farmington Forward Plan, our master plan, or other situations, so it doesn't come across that development activity with the magnitude of a project like this was not done without considered and deliberate and thoughtful input from the public, who had chances to weigh in on the Farmington Forward Plan, the master plan, and any other document. Can you just, a word on that to reassure, I suppose, a little bit, or remind or refresh the tools and the things that led us to this place? We have a developer who says, this is the minimum viable product. If it's not this number of units, it's not this footprint, it's a non-starter. How do we address that from a resident standpoint?
Well, so I think first of all, a 4-story building has been envisioned for a long time. In our zoning, the Central Business District has allowed for 4 stories for over a decade, 25 years. Thank you. The master plan that was recently completed featured focus groups. It featured specific studies, community outreach, published in the paper, 2 farmers market events for people to weigh in. There were charrettes done, and this was the type of project that came out of that process. So, and then again, the marketing study that was done in 2023 suggested a similar type development. It's very difficult to build in the downtown and to make a viable product, and a product of this size is what financially works.
Thank you for the refresher. Appreciate it.
And just, in the very beginning, I looked at multiple options, and every other project failed financially. So there just isn't any other viability for this use of this project. I tried probably 6 different schemes, and every time they failed.
So one more question, Mr. Weber. Has there been any precedence of a development that was brought forth to the city of Farmington for a 4-story building that has been denied, that you know of, or does any city official know of? If 4-story building has been allowed for 25 years, why have we not seen any of that type of development on Grand River?
I'm not aware of any development that was brought forward and denied.
Okay.
We tabled Castle Dental, I believe. I think they were 4-story.
Was that 4?
I think it was 4. If I remember right.
I'm not sure what the standards were over by Castle Dental. I know the problem was problematic over there because they lacked the parking that they needed.
Right.
Yeah, they had
This one, we're having the same issues. They don't lack the parking, and what they're proposing does meet the permitted requirements of the zoning ordinance. So to differentiate between this and what's going on with Robertson was a PUD, so we have a little bit more discretion on what we could require there as far as height and stories. Here, it meets exactly what's being called for by the zoning ordinance, so it's a permitted use. So that's sort of the difference between, the amount of, I guess, public weigh-in we would have had with a PUD where you're having public hearings, whereas here the public weigh-in was during the master plan.
For sure, for sure. But look, let's be honest. This is one of the last remaining undeveloped or potentially to be developed parcels. It is a 4-story windowless structure as you come up Grand River. That's what people are going to see about our town.
It's the last remaining or the first of others.
Well, that-
Right, ideally, it'll spur more development.
Understood. Yeah, for sure. No, I'm not saying, I just, and understood all the process we went through with Maxfield and Robertson, all appropriate, all well and good. And we've done every single thing that I believe as a planning commission, as a city, to make citizens aware. There's a development plan, there's tools in place to facilitate that development plan. It provides guidelines and regulations, et cetera. And the economic environment, the vibrancy of our city is now attracting, and we are at a point now where we've got the first of something that is like, it's not careful what you ask for, but it's here. Right? So I don't think any of us takes it lightly of what it looks like and what it will mean to the character of the city. So, okay.
Jeff asked me to mention that the 4-story limit is for mixed-use buildings specifically, so. I
Okay,
speak for
thank
Jeff now.
So they need, some waivers and such this evening, that's what their objective is. Would it be beneficial for them to go through the PUD process to then be able to massage those things a little more and have more flexibility?
The PUD process would, as I understand it, avoid the need for the variance. I think they have the flexibility.
So the PUD, we typically look at when you're looking at a large range of needing a lot of variances that are pretty significant. Here, I think because they're waivers that are permitted to be granted by, for the most part, by Planning Commission, it's not a project that leans toward a PUD process. A PUD process, you're looking at something that really isn't intended to fit where it's going. It wasn't a permitted use in that area. Here, we're looking at a permitted use with a couple waivers that are, that you as the Planning Commission are permitted to grant, and one minor, like a 1-foot zoning variant. So it's not what you would typically see as a PUD.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, one of our very first reviews of it was approaching it as a PUD, and we got before the early committee and with the consultants, and actually OHM was the one that suggested, I don't think you should do a PUD. I mean, look at this as several waivers. I'd go the regular route. You're allowed to do what you do. It'd be a lot easier.
They're really doing what's permitted in that space. So for a PUD is typically something other than you would see permitted in the space that it's going into.
Okay.
So I have a question, Beth. Is it within the Planning Commission's privy to ask for a public hearing? Or is that only?
No, this is just standard site plan approval. It's pursuant to state law, how it's done. It's just a standard permitted site plan review, so no, there's no public hearing.
So if we wanted, though?
No.
We can't? Okay. So then that's a follow-up question that I had initially. The neighboring businesses and residents, how much do they know about this project? Have they seen the plan? Do they know?
I don't know.
what it's
This
gonna
is
look
public record. I know that we approached them at one point to see if they could join our projects, and they decided no. We shared with them at least our verbal envision of the site, and they chose not to be a part of it. So they are aware of it. I don't know if they've gone online. This is all public information, so I don't know how to answer that for them.
But other than being next door to the neighbors, they're not asking for anything from the neighbors in this development. They're, like I said, they're following the ordinance, and this is what's in the master plan. So they're following what the city master plan.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't a question of asking the neighbors. It was how much do they know about this plan that's coming up?
One more question. I'm not an expert on fire code and those sorts of things, but the lack of windows is just visually puzzling. Is there anything that can be done on the east and west elevations?
Those are dictated firewalls at zero lot line. There are no openings allowed. You want
Yeah,
me to
that's a
paint over
mural
the
space.
brick?
It's a mural space.
We looked at that, and that was a code breaker. Mr. Bodell would never give me a building permit if I put windows in there. He said, Tissio, take them back and rework them.
This would have been a lot easier to design.
Yes, it was.
I
It
understand.
would be.
It's just,
But, Jeff's always worried about public health, safety, and welfare.
well, we all are.
I need a new wall to tag, so.
And from what I understand, the initial request on this property was zero lot line on the east and west sides. That's how it was promoted.
Have you considered taking that top floor and reducing the square footage of some of those units just a little bit, enough to step it back a hair, just to give a stepped look, so it's not quite as jarring between the first and, the 1 to 4 floor, that I think might help alleviate some people's concern with the sudden change in height?
There was some consideration to that, but now we get into a lot of enclosure issues with water penetration, snow standing on the roof line there. If you step it back, it's got to be stepped back 5, 8 feet. And then again, now we start losing units, and the project just financially just doesn't work anymore. I'm not kidding when I say we're there, as far as looking at the pro forma and how this is working. We've had a lot of concessions. We lost 425 square feet of retail when the Downtown Development Authority asked us to move the building back. So we lost 425 square feet of retail.
Doesn't seem like a lot compared to the size of the building.
That's right, but the problem is we only had 12,800 square feet of the retail space.
So the plan, the first floor calls for what, like 4 or 5 retail spaces?
No, it calls for 12,375 square feet of retail. How that's going to be divided up, we don't know. We're actually talking to an Italian restaurant. They're looking at taking 3 of those spaces as their one space. And there's another conversation that might take 4 of them. We don't know. In retail, you don't know where you're at unless you have a LOI going in on a development as to how it's going to be developed. Retail is just that way. It's got to be flexible, and that's why we can't have a change in floor elevations either.
The heights that are provided in here, are they taken from the, I'm gonna say the high side or the low side of the building?
Let me answer. That's one of my questions I had, because we have a sloping site.
Right.
The way I understand it, the ordinance reads that the height of a building is measured from grade to the top of the roof, not the parapet, but the top of the roof.
Okay.
But we have a sloping site that is 2'10" from one end to the other end. So I guess I'm looking for a recommendation. How is that measured? Is it measured from the low point? Is it an average in both ends? I don't know.
Because we didn't know, on our elevations, you'll see that our dimensions are taken from the finished floor of the first floor to the top of the roof, because that is consistent.
I don't know how that's addressed.
I am on, let's see, what sheet is this? It's the same sheet you are. And if I'm looking at it, it says finished first floor, and I'm looking at that outside number, which is 45 feet, 4 inches. All right, so that, and then I see an additional
4 feet on
7.
the east end. And then at the opposite end, we're going to be 2'10" less.
Well, no, not from finished floor.
Oh, but finished floors is the same.
That's how we did the measurement. So if there is, we could discuss that with Jeff and see if he agrees with the way that we measured the building and determine if that variance is necessary. But that's how I measured it, and then gave the allowance for the exemptions to the height limit for that parapet wall, and it still looked like it was a foot over, but we could discuss that.
Along that same track there, so did I see correctly that you've got a 6-foot-high parapet? Or is it 7?
The
wall is-
10.
Yeah, so it's a 7-foot-tall parapet, and we're allowed a 6-foot-high, and that's why they needed the variance, right? Okay. What kind of mechanical units are you thinking are gonna be on the roof of this building that you need a 7-foot-high?
It isn't related to more mechanical units on there as it is the form on the front of the building and the sides. It's that shape that we were trying to achieve. And that Kimberly had looked at different proportions, and that's the proportion design-wise that works.
Gotcha.
That's how we arrived at that scale.
So this variance will have to be given by the zoning?
A question for OHM. Is there anything in your letter of recommendation that you feel needs a little more time, a little more study? The applicant has not formally addressed. Another couple weeks of discussion would provide clarity, or, we got what we got? Is there anything in there that you're like, boy, if we had a couple more weeks, we could have resolved X or Y? Or,
I don't think you've got what you got. The planning commission has a authority and the ability to give them further feedback on the design, the facade, the materials. You guys haven't talked about parking yet, which I was anticipating would come up this evening and be something that you'd want to discuss, potential uses on those ground floors and what the parking demand would be. So from our standpoint, we're not going to bring you a site plan that's not potentially ready to be approved. There's nothing that's so outstanding that I didn't think it was worth your time to bring it here tonight and to review it. But what you choose to do, that's your purview. You can take time to think about it. To some, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a PUD where you have full discretion on design. You have standards you have to follow that are set forth in zoning ordinance section 35-105 that dictates specific, building design standards. So as long as they meet those building design standards, it's a standard site plan and it needs to be approved. So it's
okay. All right, then can we hit parking now then? May as well.
Could I just add one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Just to clarify, there was a set of plans that went to the DDA Design Committee. It was reviewed. They offered a recommendation. There was revisions made.
Correct.
And we submitted those to OHM for their review, and that's what's in your packet. OHM produced a letter with their recommendations, which the applicant has seen, and there's a new set of plans that we received today, which you have not seen yet, that has answers to many of those questions. But it just,
I think all of them, yes. So they've been revised, and I apologize for the short notice, but we just didn't have the time to make the changes. But we did make the change that came out of OHM's letters. Both us and the engineering and landscaping had changed it.
so we have
Has the parking changed?
No, it didn't address the parking. We addressed, they had a concern about on Grand River that we had the tables too close to the roadway. Can we have a fence there as a barrier so somebody doesn't walk on the Grand River? So we added that. There were other questions all about the seating out in front. Rather than have a 20-foot long bench, they asked to break that up, and we have a small planter in the middle. So we have roughly 8 feet of seating on sides on the front so that people can sit on Grand River and enjoy the day right there having their coffee. Hopefully there'll be a Italian coffee maker there as a retail tenant. Or they go from Starbucks and come and sit on our property and enjoy it.
Another things like the facade calculations for the materials and the openings, that was all added to the elevations as
Yeah.
requested.
But as we look at OHM's letter and the list of, things that say does not meet, so understood on a fence, I'm not diminishing the things that you've done to address that. But foundational things in here like building height hasn't been reduced, building size has not been reduced, parking holds at 44, what's the spaces, 44 when 40, when 116 are required, that holds and hasn't been changed, right? So some of these there may be things that have been addressed, but there's a couple big ones in here that we're gonna have to say, are we comfortable approving a building with 40 spaces that requires 116? Now, I know it's in a different coded district, so public parking counts, right? So I know there was some things in our packet about that, so there's plenty of parking. I know there was something, Chris, you had provided about a parking utilization study that talked about peak times and parking availability, and it sounds like there's plenty of parking available to make up for the delta between what would be, 56, or I'm bad at math, whatever the number is, something like that, 66, 76, whatever the number is, somewhere in there. So it's a huge discrepancy, and are we comfortable? But this has been parking's a question that comes up with every development, every place, right? And guess what? We just seem to deal with it. It just seems to work out, I think.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be peaks and valleys, there just are, right?
So if we're talking about parking, maybe I'll ask Kristen, again, we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, or this item, but that was 30 minutes ago, about, because this is located in the downtown, as you mentioned, there's other things, other rules that apply. So if we could go over what that modification to the letter is again, just so we have the numbers again in our mind for what's required without a waiver.
Sure. So in section 35.105 subsection D, it talks about meeting the requirements of Article 14, but the planning commission may reduce the number of parking spaces required to 1.5 per dwelling unit, and that's represented in those revised calculations. And then also in that section, it talks about the site being located within 500 feet from other parking facilities intended for public use, such as municipal parking lot, parking structure, or on-street parking that provides adequate parking spaces to serve the proposed use. And the section B talks about a failure to provide on-site parking shall be deemed to constitute and acknowledge an acceptance of a benefit, such that if the city establishes a special assessment district to fund the construction, operation, and maintenance of public parking that will serve the property owner agrees to become part of such district and further agrees to payment of the assessment in lieu of providing on-site parking. So it talks about, potential future facilities and how those would be funded.
Is any of that parking adjacent that could count because of where it's located, any of our time-restricted parking? Isn't some of our parking like 3-hour parking only? So are we gonna have residents and guests who come for the weekend parking and in taking up 3-hour only spaces that businesses rely on for come-and-go business? So we may have the footprint of available parking, but do we have the utilization of those parking spaces to accommodate, extended parking?
I'd like to ask the applicant about that. I noticed that in the diagram of the carports, it looked like they were numbered. So I was curious if you could talk about, with your on-site parking, what would actually be available to people using the retail and commercial spaces, and what would be dedicated to residents?
Yes, we have one space for the 33 units, and we have 7 spaces basically for retailer or other use on the site.
So would those 7 units, those 7 parking spaces, would they be timed, untimed?
Untimed. I see no reason for that. And also, by the way, one of the things that we are going to be doing is we're going to prep each of the spaces for an EV charger so that if a tenant or an owner chooses to have an EV car, they can just charge it right there. but we're going to prep it for that. But that's the maximum spaces we can get in there is the 41 spaces. Again, one for each of the 33 units and 7 extras.
And those 7 extras are for the retail customers.
Retail use, employees, well, I guess whoever uses them.
So
You
they
know,
could say, park there and walk over to Cowley's, for example.
That's correct, it could be. Well, I don't know if we can put a restriction on the parking there, only for this property's use. I don't know that. We didn't explore that idea. Just because of the discussions we've had, that there's enough parking downtown that this should not be an issue.
I mean, I don't know if that makes an issue right now, but having those 7 extra spaces being available for public parking, not just for your property, then that's something we may want to discuss, making them timed parking spaces like the rest of the public parking spaces are. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with everybody parking in your 7 spaces all day.
Yeah, well, the issue we have is guests coming in for the people that own the condos.
So if
you're intending to use them as guest parking.
Guest parking or for the retail parking?
That's what I'm saying, so it's for your properties.
It's for our property,
use only, it's
correct.
not for general public.
Correct.
So the general public gives up 7 parking spaces to accommodate this in the north lot.
Oh, it's more than that.
All the parking along that west side of the site.
No, I think there's, how many left? There's three that are.
3 of the 10 that are there.
Yeah.
So.
If you're saying there's no signage, then you really can't prohibit people from parking there that would be pending. I mean, if you're not gonna time it, or anybody can park there really, just like the rest of them.
And speaking with other residents that live in, what's the development just south of downtown there with the carports, they say that, you know, they live in there, but other people, you know, on market day in particular, park in their carport because it's a parking spot.
Shows it's successful downtown.
Yeah, we're just gonna, I mean, look, we're finishing up Maxfield. This potential, this is a large concentration all at once. So that's gonna be a lot of unknown of where all that's gonna go. Yes, there are sufficiency of spaces, but the distribution of those spaces, et cetera, but you'd assume that someone buying a condo would look at that and say, I wonder where I'm gonna park. I wonder where my neighbor or my friend is gonna park. So buyer beware.
Is there any consideration to maybe saving some money, not putting in the carport and just making it all public parking? And then it would be similar to the other apartments that are above the adjacent properties that don't have designated parking. And it,
I think we would have a lot of difficulty selling one of the condo units.
Yeah.
If they did not have a designated parking spot.
how many
I wouldn't buy
vacancies are in the apartments above the rest of the downtown that don't have dedicated parking? Staff?
They're also different scale. This is 30 units.
33.
Yeah. And the other buildings are, 2 or 3 apartments. It's the whole, I mean, it's just a little different scale of parking need for those tenants.
Sure.
Okay, any more questions from commissioners? For either the petitioner or for OHM or for administration? No? Do we have a motion?
Me.
I'm not looking at everybody. Anybody wants to make a motion?
We need to read the recommended text.
Miriam, could I ask OHM, from the engineering standpoint, is there anything in the letters that needs to get addressed?
Sure.
Sorry about that. Yep.
Yeah, Matt Parks with OHM on the engineering side.
Microphone.
Sorry, could you step either that mic or
He's
over?
got one right there for you.
Yeah, on the engineering front, and again, I'm Matt Parks with OHM. The letter outlines both site plan comments and preliminary detailed engineering comments. This is pretty straightforward from an engineering standpoint. The public utilities are there. We had a couple of comments, and I'm excited to see what the applicant has addressed, but we had more of our comments were pedestrian related. I think we had a recommendation in there about the sidewalk along the back and then connection on the west side. Making sure that it's pedestrian friendly all around the building. I know a lot of emphasis has been put on Thomas Street to start connecting from Maxfield to the downtown on that. So keeping that continuity there. But from a standpoint of preliminary site plan, everything is very much addressable. We recommended approval based on, seeing it again during detailed engineering. I think the utilities, the service leads, some of the things that we mentioned there are more detailed in nature. Overall, from an engineering standpoint, we feel like it fits. We did have comments similar to what was discussed tonight on just turning radius, access, making sure that for the carports, the foundations are shown, and turning templates will need to be shown, but you showed.
We did
showed
show
a
that.
drawing that was up there. That'll help a lot. I think I'd like to see some turning movements in and out of that dumpster enclosure, just to make sure I understand what that movement looks like and how much that truck will need to come out into the public area. But nothing stood out where we wouldn't recommend approval at this point.
And again, we still have to go through full engineering to address the balance of the work anyway.
And that's typically where we roll our sleeves up.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So a couple different ways you could go with this. You could approve the site plans contingent upon administration clearing all these items. You could table it and say, we want all these items addressed and bring it back to the planning commission at their next meeting. Or you could deny the project. A couple of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, as noted, I mean, we can, you could do a tabling motion and say we want to have, come back. Look, we know what's going to come back. The parking's not going to change. The building height's not going to change. The footprint's not going to change. So we would come back and we would be talking about, a little material or whatever these things are. I'm not minimizing and trivializing those, but that's just my take. Because a lot of those things are fixed from the proposed development, and a lot of them are things that would, as noted through either the engineering study or the general OHM study and the work that the revised proposal that has been submitted, right? That's beginning to address those items that we would have confidence that all appropriate departments would do the due diligence to make sure that everything outlined in the OHM letter has been satisfied. And the planning commission, parking waiver, the zoning board variance would be achieved, and all the required OHM things would be vetted out and approved through each appropriate group and within the city. I mean, that's the way I see it.
So with that, is anyone ready to make a motion?
I will make the motion. Motion to approve the site plan for 33224 Grand River Avenue, the Farmington, conditioned upon completion and approval of the items contained in the OHM site plan review letter dated May 21st, 2026, and OHM's engineering review letter dated May 21, 2026.
Question to staff on the motion. That would be inclusive of things like the waiver, the ZBA approval, et cetera, because that's contained in the OHM letter.
You would, as the planning commission, would be granting the waiver, and it would be subject to the ZBA
Yes.
granting the approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So is it appropriate to ask for a revised motion that is everything that Commissioner Crutcher noted with the exception, or excuse me, with the addition of the specificity that the planning commission grants the waiver for parking?
Yes.
That the zoning board, at a subsequent zoning board meeting has to be scheduled to achieve the required variance for that.
Correct.
And then everything else holds based on the OHM 2 letters as noted by Commissioner Crutcher.
Yes.
I would amend my motion as stated, as recommended. Just against it.
Motion made. Is there any support?
Support?
Motion made and supported. Do we have a roll call for each one to say, or instead of just everybody saying yea or nay? Is that appropriate?
Before we, I guess you could answer that question, but before we get to that point, I wanted to add one more thing. Because again, the DDA Design Committee had, they didn't get a chance to see the final product.
Okay.
Can we also make it subject to them just signing
So
off? Yeah, you did address everything
Right.
that we had asked.
So a third amendment to the motion beyond planning commission waiver, parking waiver, ZBA would be the DDA Design Committee review and approval, in addition to the 2 OHM letters.
I can amend the motion as suggested.
Is there support for the amendment?
Support for the amended motion? Okay.
And is it a roll call? Yeah. Okay. So, Crutcher,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Kometso,
Yes.
Majoris,
Yes.
Manti,
Yes.
Westendorf.
No.
All right. I guess motion's passed. The majority, right? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, Mr. Weber, any update on current development projects?
I don't have an update.
No update. Public comment is concluded. Any planning commission comments?
No.
No comment? No? All right. Any motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is, meeting is adjourned.